I'm going to talk a little bit about stretching. Now, I've included stretches in this course because people do ask me about them. But they're not included in the core videos because I feel that the techniques in the core videos will get you faster results than stretching will. Having said that, in general, muscles do like stretching. And in general, stretching is good for muscles. However, if you do a stretch and it makes you feel worse, don't do them. You could be pulling on tendons instead of the muscle, and those tendons may have little micro tears or small tears in them that were a result of an injury you've forgotten about a long time ago, or they could have been through micro injuries over a period of time that you were totally unaware of at the time. You were so engaged in football or whatever you were doing, or you fell on the ice or whatever, and you didn't realize that tendon was ever a problem. Now, there are a lot of benefits to stretching, and I'm just going to talk about stretching in general, even though the videos that I have are very specific for certain muscles, but this applies to basically anywhere in the body. Stretching increases flexibility. Stretches help prevent your muscles from becoming sore after a workout. Stretches help blood get into a muscle. Getting blood into the muscle also helps get rid of the lactic acid buildup after a sport and helps get rid of other waste products as well. Stretching also helps you prevent injury. The question becomes, how long do you stretch? How often do you stretch? How many times do you stretch? How many repetitions, etc. And here I'm going to be rather wishy-washy because there are so many methodologies out there. And not any one of them is exactly right. There's all kinds of good ways to stretch. However, when you're first starting out, you want to be gentle with yourself to make sure the stretching doesn't hurt you. And you never, ever, ever want to force a stretch. You always want to stretch to the edge of comfort. If you stretch too far, you can rip muscle fibers, and that's not good. One of my instructors was a chiropractor, and he talked about competitive yoga. Competitive yoga or competitive stretching is when you try to do what the instructor does, or the picture in the book does, or the guy on the video does, who is much more flexible than you, and you try to force your body into positions that it can't do without a little bit of damage to yourself. That's competitive yoga. And speaking of yoga, unless you're very strong and very flexible, you don't want to do the advanced stretches of yoga. You don't want to do the inverted stuff unless you're really strong and ready for it, because you can really help out your chiropractor. So how long do you hold a stretch? Again, that varies. Start off with just a few seconds. Let's say I'm turning my neck, for example. Just a few seconds in each direction. And repeat the stretch for at least 3 times, because the first time you stretch a muscle, any muscle, is going to resist the stretch. It's afraid it's going to get hurt, because muscles do have a certain amount of intelligence in that they're trying to protect themselves from damage. Muscles are full of nerves, and these nerves do have the intelligence to send signals to the muscle when it's in danger. For example, if you accidentally touch a hot stove, your muscle will know about it before your brain does and will pull itself away. Anyway, the second time you stretch, you get a little bit better stretch usually, and that's why you want to do it probably at least 3 times or more. And as you get comfortable with that stretch, you can go up to 20 seconds to hold a stretch, but it's not so much how long, it's whether you feel a stretch. You want to, let's say I'm going this way, stretch to the edge of comfort. And you hold it, and if you feel a release, you can stretch further. It's the release you want to feel, not how many seconds you want to feel a stretch. Now, in any muscle, if you do a stretch release, you'll get a better stretch than if you just try and stretch the muscle. For example, in the turning the neck one, it can work for any muscle. Say I'm turning my head to the side, push it as far as comfortable, then I can resist by pushing my head against my hand. I don't want to strain doing any of this. Just gently pushing to use the muscle. And then when I stretch, I get a much better stretch. By making the muscles work and by making them stretch very close to each other, I've confused the muscle, confused the nerves in the muscle, and they are no longer resisting the stretch nearly as much as they were if I'm not using the stretch release technique. It allows for a much faster stretch and much more progress. Having said that, I've put in the videos, hold this stretch for 3 seconds or hold this stretch for 20 seconds. You can decide if that 3 seconds is not long enough for you. You can decide if that 20 seconds is too long for you. You can decide when you feel the stretch. So don't get hung up on how many times or how many seconds. As long as you're feeling a stretch, it's good for you. And again, I think, in my opinion, my techniques in the core videos will get you there faster than just doing stretches. But if you like doing the stretches, go right ahead.